Alrighty, welcome everybody. My name is Jonathan Maddock. I'm a subject matter expert here at Redtail Technology. Today we're going to be talking about preferences and how we can customize our CRM to be different than others in our office. How I see different things, how we want to see things by default, maybe our email setups, different things like that where we can go ahead and customize that's going to be user specific. So my preferences are obviously going to be different than my counterparts and vice versa. So in order to get to the preferences, we're going to go ahead and start, and we're going to move up to the top right hand corner, and we're going to click our name here, and we're going to go down to preferences. It's going to be the first option here. And within preferences, we're going to have a number of different subsets. We're going to have general information, activity management. We're going to kind of go through all of these here. So the first one is actually probably some of the most important things because it allows us to adjust which default screen we log into. So what screen do I want to see? Do I want to see the today page, or if maybe somebody who wants to take a look at my activities, and that's what's most important to us, then what we can go ahead and do is we can adjust which screen we log into. So maybe I don't want to log into the today screen, but I want to log in and I want to see I can go ahead and take a look at my activities page so that every time I log in, I immediately see what I need to get done, any past activities or any future activities that we have. I'm also able to take a look and maybe jump right to my calendar. So it's really one of those things that, as far as efficiency goes, when I log in, this is what I want to see because I want to get right to work. So as we continue on, we have our session timeout. This is a huge one because I don't want to have to continue to put in my password every single, every 90 minutes as I'm working through the CRM. And if we're utilizing it to its fullest capability, I'm probably spending quite a bit of time within Redtail. So setting your default session timeout to all day will allow you to only log in one time, work throughout the day, and then go ahead and as you go home, come back in the next morning, you'll have to log in again. So it's only going to prompt you for your password one time. And now, of course, if you close out all your browsers and you exit, you would obviously have to log back in. But as far as leaving open the screen, it won't prompt you to re-input your password. Then obviously as we have time zone. Time zone's great. We all know what time zone we're in. If not, you probably travel a lot, so you may get confused. But if we are adjusting, maybe going back and forth, we can go ahead and adjust that here. So as we scroll down, we get into activity management. And this is really going to focus a lot on what is in the calendar. So, what do we see on our calendar? What am I seeing by default? So this allows us to take a look and see by default which view do I want. Do I like that week view? Do I like that month view, that day view? I prefer the week, just it kind of gives me a a good idea of what I'm going to be taking a look at by default. But again, it's completely up to you. Then we can adjust our default start time and end time. So if you're a really hard worker and you start at 5 a.m. and you don't go to sleep, you don't log out until 7, well, then you can go ahead and adjust those times to say that I want my calendar to show, my start time at 5 a.m. So this time would be 5 a.m. and then I have a really long calendar until that's 7. So I have a lot of time in the day to go ahead and get the things I need to get done. Also, we can go ahead and adjust the time slots. By default, do I want to see increments of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? So I prefer the 15 just because it gives me more options. However, I do know people who live their life in hour increments. So hour is what they do. So they schedule everything in hour increments. Then as we come down, we have the default to show. Default to show completed activities, default to show all day events, client reviews, client birthdays, marital status, marital anniversaries, seminars, and workflow tasks. So these are just going to be the default. So that means that when I take a look at my calendar, do I want to see these by default? Whereas right now I have client reviews shown, and if any time I want to go ahead and adjust that, I can go ahead and make sure that it will either not show those by default. Now, it doesn't mean that once I'm in the calendar, it will never show them. All I have to do is go ahead and adjust, go to the Actions tab, and go ahead and say Show Workflow Tasks or Show Seminars or Hide Client Reviews. So it just kind of doesn't clutter up our calendar as much. So this is where we can go ahead and adjust those defaults. Another really great tool to use is if default activity type. So when I'm creating an activity within the database, what do I want my activity type to be default to? If you're part of the staff and you're maybe setting a lot of like tasks, maybe you want to default it as a task. So then because that's what you're mostly assigning, you can go ahead and select which is going to be a default. Then as we scroll down, we have allow iCal access. So this will allow you access to the iCal feed. So if you have specific questions about that, take a look at the help desk. There's some good documentation on that. But this is where we're going to go ahead and turn that on or off. And then as we scroll down, we have some information about our contact record. So we have, by default, do I want to, see the social security number and the tax ID, or do I want to hide it? And so what that will look like is if we're in a contact record and we scroll down here, you'll see that it's by default, it's turned off to hide. So we can then, we can go ahead and show it, or we can go ahead and make sure that the settings are set to always show it. So yes, hide, or no, we want to be able to see that information without clicking that extra show button. Then we have our client notes per page. So this is going to show us how many notes we have per page when we're in the client's notes section. So if we're in a contact record, how many notes do we want to see per page before it goes ahead and loads more. So this is just, again, a default. But within that same section is default client notes view. So when I'm within a client record, which types do I want to have selected? So you'll see here I have all of them selected, so I'm going to see all these different types of notes. Whereas I may just want to say I only want to see my notes, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these. So when I go ahead and get into my notes section, I'm only seeing actual notes. I'm not seeing completed activities. I'm not seeing completed email sent, mail merges, any sort of workflow notes. I'm just seeing the note. Some other ones we have here is we have notification options. This is going to allow us to, if we're seeing that we're getting too many emails, about activities, if we're using the calendar, a lot, and we're seeing that, I'm getting a lot of emails, about those notifications. Maybe I want to adjust, when I'm getting those email notifications about updated activities, completed activities, or being assigned an activity. I can go ahead and adjust that here. So I can say, I do not want to see that, or yes, I want to see that, when I'm assigned an activity. So I would be sent something via email. But we can also take a look is where that's going to be most important. And maybe if we don't know what we have set up, is if we're in an activity, if we're in an activity, and we can go ahead and take a look. We'll jump into this past due client review for Bruce Banner. You'll also be able to take a look over here in the top right-hand corner underneath our name, and it'll say, we'll receive notifications for assigned, completed, updated activities. So if we go ahead and adjust those settings, I may go ahead and add somebody else, and it may say only, we'll receive notifications when assigned. So if that's the case, then I may want to, let them know, hey, I just, updated this, or, let them know that there's been some adjustments to those because they won't be notified via email. And same thing with workflows. So we can go ahead and take a look if we're an attendee to a workflow, when the workflow is assigned or updated or completed, we'll get notifications. And then as the workflow owner, if you're by default you're the workflow owner, you can adjust if you're seeing those email notifications. Now the last option here under the notifications option pertains to this top right-hand corner under this, the alerts. So when we hit alerts, this is going to be our notification section. This will notify us 30 minutes prior to a calendar activity. So if I have an appointment at 10 o'clock, I will be notified at 9:30. Now, what we can do is we can adjust the sounds that it plays. So, at 9:30, it will actually play a sound as soon as that activity hits that 30-minute mark. So we have 3 sounds. We have the default windows. We have the large dog bark, and we have the small dog bark. So we can go ahead and adjust those, or if we don't want to hear any sound, we always get kind of scared from it, we can go ahead and turn that off. So as we scroll down, we have our dashboard reminders. So we can go ahead and adjust those reminders for birthdays and anniversaries, and we can adjust the time in which we want to be reminded, X amount of days in advance. I like the 30 days in advance with a 7 days past due, because any longer than that, I'm not probably already in big trouble if I forget somebody's birthday and I'm going to reach out to them 45 past due. So it's best to just kind of select whatever works best for you. But I like the 30 days in advance. And where we can go ahead and see that is if we're going to go into the Today page, we can go ahead and this top tab is going to be called Reminders. And reminders will go ahead and show those, how many days in advance will I see those birthdays coming up. So this is really going to be the only place that we can see that, but we can filter on the right-hand side. Which type of reminder are we looking for? Are we looking for the anniversary reminders, who has an anniversary coming up, or who has a birthday reminder? We can go ahead and adjust that. So how far out are we going to see those is going to be dependent on that preferences that we select. And then the same thing with the client review reminders. How many days in advance do I want to see my client reviews? If it's taking me a long time to go ahead and get all of those scheduled, maybe I want to push out the review reminder maybe 45 days in advance. If it's a short time, maybe I just want to be reminded 15 days or whatnot. This is where I would probably extend my past due, just to make sure that nothing really falls through the cracks if I am going to use this this dashboard reminder section. So I can go ahead and do that, push that date out a little bit further to make sure that nothing's falling through the cracks. Now as we scroll down, we have this under the searching section. This is just really this one option here, and it's search auto redirect. And we have an option of yes or no. And what that means is that if I go ahead and get into if I'm in the Today page and I go ahead and search a name, I have it set as yes right now. And what that means is that when I search a name and it comes up with Emmett, if I search Emmett, and Emmett, there's only one Emmett in my database, what it's going to do is when I search it, it's going to automatically bring me to Emmett Brown's page. Whereas if I go ahead and I turn this off and I save the preferences and I go get back into the Today page and I search Emmett, it's going to bring me to the search results. So then I can go ahead and then click into the contact record. Now, if you have, if you search John, you have multiple Johns within your database, you're obviously going to be brought to the search results page regardless, because you have multiple. It doesn't know which John you're looking for. But it's just going to work when you have a very specific name and you want it knows that there's only one contact record, it will automatically redirect there. I prefer a yes option here because generally, like I said, if I'm searching one name, a very general name, it will always bring me to that search result. So it just kind of reduces the clicks here and there. And as we scroll down, we have our email section. So what this is where we can go ahead and set up using our maybe broadcast email feature or our compose an email within the CRM system. So if you're not familiar with this, if I'm within a contact record, I can go ahead and just quickly click an email address and I can compose an email right from the contact record. And what this preferences section is setting up all of those SMTP server settings, editing my email signature. I can adjust the email display name, and I can also adjust whether or not I want that function to be available. So I can always, click an email here, within a contact, but I can also allow it to send to my external default mail program. So if I select it as external, what this will do when I click the email is it actually bring up my default email program, which is most likely something like Outlook or Thunderfox, something like that. And then we can go ahead and open it that way. But if we do like to be able to send it right from the CRM system, we can go ahead and adjust it and use internal. And then we can adjust the email display name. So when they receive the emails, what is the display name? We can also go ahead and adjust our email signature. Now there's a pretty cool feature here or ability is that you see that I have a logo, and I know that a lot of advisors that I work with have logos within their signatures, which is a great, whether it's a picture of themselves just so you kind of have a face of the name kind of thing. But what we can do is we can type out our name, we can type out our position, all of our contact information, and then we get down to the bottom and we can go ahead and input an image by going ahead and clicking this little mountain range image right here. So we'll go ahead and hit that icon, and it's going to bring up image properties. And in order to get an image in our signature, we're going to have to make sure that the image is hosted. So what I can go ahead and do is I'm just going to, if you already know the location of where your image is hosted, or if there's a specific image that you want, you can go ahead and generally you can save the email location or copy image location. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top left hand corner, and I'm just going to take this Redtail CRM image just so, as an example. I'm going to hit copy image location. It's going to provide me with the URL for that image. I'm going to go ahead and click this mountain range icon. I'm going to hit paste, and what that should do is when I hit OK, it's going to input that image right in within my my signature. So talk to your tech team, see where wherever that image is already hosted. Maybe it's already hosted within your Outlook or whatnot. Go ahead and you can pop that in there. And then last, we can go ahead and put our confidentiality notice in here so that we're being protected there. So that would be setting up our signature. And then probably the most important thing, if we want to use broadcast email or that compose email within the CRM, is setting up our server mail transfer protocol settings. It's SMTP. I always consider it, send mail to people, just kind of nice and easy to remember. But what this is whoever is hosting your email should be able to provide this information. We can go ahead and just pop it right here and then put our username and password that we use to log into our email. So we can go ahead and set all that up, and then this is where we can do that. So as we continue down, we're going to get into this area where it says reports. And now when we are writing reports for accounts, we need to be providing a disclosure statement. So this is where we can edit our disclosure statement, or at least put one in. So that anytime we run in a report with account information, we can provide them with a disclosure statement. So we can go ahead and label what the disclosure statement name is, and then put our disclosure statement. You see here we have a sample, and so anytime we run that report, that's what it will look like. And so let's actually jump into a contact record here, and we'll just quickly show you what I'm talking about. So we're going to go to accounts, and if we're just going to run a report here, we're going to go to options in the top right. I'm going to go to reports, and then I'm going to go to profile summary, report all accounts. We'll go ahead and open this. And what that will do is you'll see this is my profile summary report for Emmett Brown, but you'll also see that I have my disclosure statement there as well. So this is where we can go ahead and adjust that and attach it to those reports. So we are able to provide that information. So then as we scroll down, the last section we have here is miscellaneous. And this is actually a very underutilized section. A lot of people maybe get to the middle and they set everything up and then they don't continue on to the bottom. But I actually think this is a really great place to, especially if you're doing a lot of bulk actions, is a great area to be in. So the first one is the market watch list. So if there's specific symbols that you are watching on a regular basis, as far as market research, we can go ahead and put in the symbols that we want here. And then when we're on the Today page, let's get into the Today page here. You will see that we have a market news section. So we'll hit the market news tab, and it will actually show all of the symbols that we are currently taking a look at. So you'll see that what we had here, down here at the bottom, these symbols here are actually showing right here in this your stock watch list. It also provides different market news. So it's just something that we can go ahead and adjust, make it personalized to what we're interested in and what's important to us. So that's going to go ahead and adjust that. And then lastly, these two options down here at the bottom, I probably hear about this quite a bit, and this actually can save a lot of headache if you're running any sort of big export. If you're doing a lot of custom exports and you have a ton of clients, maybe 500 plus clients, and you're doing a lot of exports, what this essentially means is submit bulk operation to a job if selected contacts exceeds this threshold. And what it's saying is, if I go ahead and run some sort of bulk action or some sort of export, and it's over 200 contacts, then what I want it to do is I want it to not slow down my system. I want it to do work on the back end and then put it to my Dropbox. And where we can access the Dropbox is going to the top right hand corner, going to your manage your account section. You'll see under the admins only tab, you'll see Dropbox files and database backup. So we can, if I'm doing a large export, you'll go ahead and see it took too long. There's too many contacts for it to wait there. It didn't want to slow you down as far as you continuing to use the CRM. So it did it on the back end, and this is where you can go ahead and receive it. Now, if you are an admin, or if you have admin access, and you maybe have a number of people in your office who don't have admin access, what I've seen this happen is when the staff or somebody who doesn't have admin access goes and tries to run a job that is 200 plus contacts, they always say like, well, where is it going? Now it's in my Dropbox, and now I don't have access to it. So there can be some headache there if you don't have access to this. So what I would recommend doing is putting it up to maybe a 500 contacts and going ahead and saving those preferences, so that way when you go ahead and run those big exports, it's not being pushed to an area where you don't have access to. You'll just have to wait an extra couple seconds while it loads and then pushes you the information. So that's going to be on the bulk operations. And then very similar thing here at the submit contacts combine or contacts delete. If you're doing any big, removing contacts from your database, or you're combining them all together, what it's essentially saying is any more than 100 contacts or any more than 5 contacts, it's going to be pushed to a job, and it's going to be done once it's queued up and gets completed, but it won't slow you down from using the CRM. So if you're finding that, this is kind of like, I'm okay to wait the extra couple seconds, then go ahead and just kind of increase this contact selected. And so that's pretty much going to be the preferences. They're great to be able to adjust and make personalized your database. Always feel free to reach out to us via phone at 1-800-206-5030, or shoot us an email at support@redtailtechnology.com. Other than that, I appreciate you being customers, and you guys have a great rest of your day.